The transformation of the Roman legal system under the Codex Theodosianus is one of the most fascinating examples of how law, religion, and imperial power can intertwine to shape a civilization. Unlike the earlier legal compilations of Rome, which largely reflected a polytheistic society governed by pragmatic rules, the Codex Theodosianus marks the legal crystallization of Christianity as a state ideology and the profound reshaping of law around moral and religious imperatives. Its compilation and promulgation were not merely administrative acts, they represented a deliberate effort to define what it meant to be a citizen, a subject, and a moral actor in a rapidly Christianizing empire. Promulgated in 438 CE by Emperor Theodosius II, the Codex Theodosianus was the first systematic compilation of imperial constitutions, leges, from Constantine the Great onward, covering nearly a century of legislation. The compilation was ordered to make the law more accessible and consistent for officials, judges, and citizens alike. Before this codification, Roman law was a sprawling collection of edicts, rescripts, and statutes scattered across imperial decrees, many of which were conflicting or outdated. By collecting these into a structured, accessible code, Theodosius sought to create both legal clarity and ideological coherence. The very act of codification implied a shift. Law was no longer a neutral instrument of governance but a medium for consolidating Christian moral and social norms across a vast empire. One of the most significant aspects of the Codex Theodosianus is its explicit intertwining of law and Christianity. Many laws were aimed at suppressing pagan practices, promoting Christian worship, and enforcing moral behavior as defined by Christian doctrine. Sacrifices to pagan gods, divination, and certain traditional festivals were forbidden, and the legal framework began to privilege Christians in various social and civic spheres. The code also legislated on issues of morality and family life, including marriage, sexual behavior, and inheritance, often aligning legal sanctions with the Church's moral teachings. The Codex did not merely reflect existing Christian influence, it actively shaped society by making conformity to Christian norms a matter of law. The Codex Theodosianus also illustrates a remarkable evolution in administrative control. By codifying laws throughout the empire, the emperor reinforced the central authority of the imperial office. Local customs and earlier regional laws were increasingly subordinated to the uniform standards established by the Codex. This legal centralization mirrored the administrative centralization of the late Roman Empire and reflected the growing intertwining of ecclesiastical authority with state power. Bishops and other church leaders often held significant influence in interpreting and enforcing the law, and the code served as a tool for aligning local administration with both imperial and religious priorities. While the Codex Theodosianus was intended primarily for administration and governance, its social consequences were profound. The code marginalized non-Christians legally, socially, and economically. Pagans faced restrictions on public office, inheritance, and religious expression, gradually eroding the pluralism that had characterized earlier Roman society. Jews, too, encountered increasing legal constraints, including limits on building synagogues and holding certain offices. This legal favoritism toward Christianity codified a new moral and social hierarchy, embedding religious identity into the very structure of civil life. Another notable feature of the Codex Theodosianus is its treatment of morality and public order. Crimes were increasingly framed in moral or religious terms. Heresy, sacrilege, adultery, and blasphemy were subject to penalties, often severe, reflecting the perception that personal behavior could affect the well-being of the state. This moralization of law is a hallmark of the transition from a pagan, civic-oriented legal system to a Christian, morally oriented legal system. It reflects an emerging belief in the inseparability of law, ethics, and religion, a belief that would profoundly influence European legal thought for centuries. The Codex also represents a crucial step in the evolution of codified law in the West. While earlier compilations like the Codex Gregorianus and Codex Hermogeneanus focused on administrative and procedural matters, Theodosian codification sought comprehensive societal regulation through law informed by Christian values. The code itself was divided into 16 books, covering everything from civil and criminal law to administrative organization, the rights and duties of citizens, religious observances, and even property and inheritance laws. This level of systematic organization provided a template that influenced later codifications, most famously the Justinianic Corpus Juris Civilis in the 6th century, which would serve as a foundation for medieval and modern European legal systems. From a broader historical perspective, the Codex Theodosianus embodies the shift from a pluralistic Roman Empire to a Christian empire where the emperor was seen as a moral and religious guardian as well as a political ruler. By enshrining Christian values into law, the code legitimized the state's intervention in personal and religious life, creating a new model of governance, the Christian legal empire. It illustrates the fusion of law, morality, and imperial authority and the use of legislation as a tool of cultural transformation. Yet, the code was not without tensions or contradictions. The enforcement of religious uniformity created social friction and sometimes led to resistance from pagan communities, especially in rural areas. Legal favoritism toward Christianity also risked alienating segments of the population that had been integral to Roman civic life. These challenges underscore the Codex Theodosianus not just as a legal document but as a cultural project. It sought to reshape identities, beliefs, and loyalties across a vast, diverse empire. In conclusion, the Codex Theodosianus is far more than a collection of laws, it is a mirror of the transformation of the Roman Empire into a Christian empire. Its compilation reflects the consolidation of imperial authority, the moralization of legal norms, and the central role of Christianity in governance. By codifying Christian principles into law, the Theodosian Code reshaped social hierarchies, religious practices, and civic life, leaving a legacy that would influence the development of Western legal tradition for centuries. The Code demonstrates how law can serve not only as an instrument of governance but also as a mechanism for ideological and cultural transformation, bridging the realms of politics, morality, and religion in ways that are still relevant for understanding the historical relationship between law and society.